Hey folks, Monday was the top 12 on Season 4 of The Voice. The competition is starting to heat up, and so is the building. Apparently the air conditioner was broke down for the first half of the show, so all the coaches were all red and sweaty, like the main course at a summer pig roast. Usher even started taking off his clothes at one point. Unfortunately though, the air came back on before we got a chance to see the goods. They must be hiring people on the cheap this year because last week the votes were screwed up. This week the air conditioner was screwed up. Who knows what next week holds? They must be cutting corners so they can afford to pay Christina Aguilera's ridiculous salary for next season. Word on the street is that she's coming back for the fall season and they're paying her $17 million. They should have dangled that money in front of Shakira and begged her for another season or two because she's been far more entertaining than Christina. I don't know if she's been any better as an actual coach, but she sure ain't been no worse. So yeah, I think $17 million is a ridiculous amount to pay anybody, especially somebody that's proven to be less popular than her replacement. As one person I saw on Twitter so eloquently put it, I hope Christina takes at least half that money and gets some good plastic surgery on her attitude. Anyway, on to this week's performances. The first of the night was Vedo. Usher said that Vedo is one of the only performers in the competition that has the ability to sing and dance, so the song he gave him was Rock With You by Michael Jackson, which was not a good song choice at all. You just don't do any favors for somebody that's an okay singer and an okay dancer by giving them a song by somebody that's known as a great singer and a great dancer, so Vedo would have been much better off with a song by somebody that's drastically less talented than Michael Jackson. Maybe an Usher song would have been better for him. Usher brought in his choreographer to help Vedo with his moves, and he did help stop Vedo from dancing like an old robot, but when he hit the stage, I still didn't think this performance was very good. Well, he started out pretty good, he sounded good. If he had stayed in one spot and kept the dancing to a minimum and kept it more subtle like he started out with, maybe he could have kind of pulled it off, but when he started moving around a lot, he started dropping words and losing his breath, which would have been somewhat understandable if he was really getting down, but to these untrained eyes, his moves didn't look all that strenuous to me. So, not really a great way to start off the show. Of course, the coaches had nothing but nice things to say. Shakira said it was vibey. Blake said it was awesome, and he thinks the one big note in the song is going to help win Vedo votes, and maybe it will, but probably not enough. I think he'll be lucky to survive this week. Next up was Hawley Tucker. The song Blake picked for her was Broken Wing by Martina McBride. During rehearsal, he stressed the importance of singing from the heart, and maybe she did. It's a little tougher to believe the song, though, when it feels like the person singing it is doing a lot of unnecessary stuff just to show off, and that's kind of what it felt like she was doing throughout half of this song. She sang it great, but it was so loud. I could have turned off my TV, and I still probably would have heard her, and I'm on the East Coast. So, I mean, just because you can be loud doesn't always mean that you should be. And I probably would have liked it better if she had scaled it back a couple of dozen notches. It was pretty good, though, and I thought she looked lovely, although I don't know what was going on with that thing that she had tacked to the side of her head. I could have done without that. Blake gave her a standing ovation. Shakira said, "Gosh dang, girl, that was awesome." And Usher said that anyone who ever doubted Hawley's talent is a frickin' idiot. I think it should be enough to get her through to next week, but I'm not ready to put her in the safe column just yet because there's just so many kinda country girls in this top 12 that they might be splitting votes, and I just don't think Hawley is quite as popular as Danielle or Amber, and going so early in the show, it could potentially be a problem for her, but I think she should be okay this week. Maybe. Next up is Garrett Gardner. Now, Garrett had to be rescued by Shakira last week, so he really needed to knock it out of the park this week. And for the second week in a row, Shakira gave him a song choice that was just all sorts of wrong for him. She gave him I Want It That Way by the Backstreet Boys. I think maybe she thought a boy singing a boy band song would get all the little girls squealing, and maybe it did, but they were squealing in terror. And poor Garrett, he just looked so uncomfortable with this song. He looked like a deer caught in the headlights of an oncoming car, and he sounded like the aftermath of it, so this performance was just a total wreck. Plus, it seemed like the song was just a bit too fast. It almost felt like a polka, so maybe Garrett should have been playing the accordion instead of the guitar. It would have made more sense. And it couldn't have made this performance any worse than it was. Even the panel of niceties had to struggle to find something nice to say about it, but Shakira thinks that Garrett has a lot of girl fans that will vote for him. I just don't believe that. I think it could go either way with him this week, but if he does survive, it will not be because the girls are swooning over him. It'll be because people feel sorry for him for being saddled with such lousy song choices. Next up is Simmons. Now, I thought Sarah should have gotten the axe last week, but Adam rescued her at the last second after hemming and hawing over it for what felt like an eternity right at the end of the show. Anyways, this week Adam gave her The Story by Brandi Carlile, which was a much better song choice than last week. He told her that she could have one scream in the song, though, so she saved that one scream for the last 85 seconds, it seemed like. Now, there were parts of it that I really liked, but she does so many different things in one song, and only about half of them work for me. She'll be singing just fine 1 second, and then she's screaming, and then she's growling. She sounds like she's gargling glass or something. And then in the transitions in between, it sounds like she's grunting to poo. So every time I start to get into one of her performances, she turns around and does something that knocks me out of it. I do think she has potential, but she also has some bad habits that probably aren't going to change in time to save her. She probably won't go home this week, but I won't be upset if she does. The coaches loved it. Blake thanked her for showing the extremes of her voice. Shakira didn't know the song, but she enjoyed it. And Adam said that she's one of the best singers on the show, but of course he says that about everybody on his team, doesn't he? Next up is the Swon brothers. Blake let them pick their own song this week. Well, they wanted to sing Who's Gonna Fill Their Shoes as a tribute to George Jones, but the Possum's been gone for a few weeks now, hasn't he? Maybe a week or two ago it would have felt like a tribute. This week, it kind of felt like pandering, but I can't say I blame them. The Swon brothers really needed to pull out all the stops this week because they really came into this week as the most likely to be eliminated, but I think this performance was enough to buy them at least another week. The talented brother played the piano while the good-looking brother played the guitar, and they both sounded better than they have before. I still think, though, that the talented brother would stand a better chance if he didn't have his good-looking brother dragging him down. But it was a solid performance. Blake thought it was a breakout moment for them. I don't know if I'd go that far, but it was okay. Next up is Sasha Allen. The song Shakira picked for Sasha is Alone by Heart. Boy, I think Shakira needs somebody to coach her in the song choosing department because this is just one of those songs, regardless of how well somebody sings it, it pretty much lost its effectiveness years ago. Anyway, during rehearsal, Shakira wanted Sasha to be more pop and less Broadway, and Sasha gave her the thumbs up for picking up on that she was in a Broadway show once. Sasha, she ain't got some magical radar that detects when you've been in some Broadway play. It's just the way you overperform that's a dead giveaway. And she didn't scale that back in this performance at all. With all the faces that she was making, it was just way too over the top. Well, she's obviously a really good singer, but when your dialed back performance is 10 times more overdramatic than Erica Kane, you got problems. I think she's just way too set in her ways to change very much at this point, so I think her days are numbered. Adam pretended like he regretted kicking Sasha off of his team, but I don't believe that. Usher said that she took us to church, and Shakira promises to write a song called My Sasha if we vote for Sasha, which is probably a good reason not to. Next up is Josiah Hawley. He said that his dad is a jazz pianist. Yes, Josiah, we know. You told us that last week, and the week before, and the week before that. We get it already. Every time somebody says that, though, I giggle like an immature grade schooler. Because it sounds like they're saying, well, you know. Anywho, the song Usher gave Josiah is The Man That Can't Be Moved by the script because he wanted him to give a more intimate performance. I gotta say, with the faces that Usher makes when Josiah is singing, kinda looks like he wants another kind of intimate performance from him, if you know what I mean. If I didn't know better, I would say that Usher had himself a little man crush. Actually, I don't know better. Maybe he does. No, actually, I thought this was a good song choice that allowed Josiah to stay within his limits, and so I agree with the coaches when they say that this was his best performance, but sitting in a pit of swaying females is a little bit corny for me, and for God's sake, Josiah, if you're going to wear a plain colored shirt, make it a V-neck. Didn't they teach y'all nothing back in modeling school? I think he's going to be just fine this week, though. Next up is Danielle Bradbery. The song Blake picked for Danielle this week was Wasted by Carrie Underwood, and he must have been wasted when he picked this song because I didn't think this was a good song choice for Danielle at all. Well, we already heard her sing a Carrie Underwood song not 2 weeks ago during the knockout rounds when she sang Jesus Take the Wheel, so we already knew she could sing a Carrie Underwood song well, and she did sing it well, but I don't know. An alcoholic anthem for the youngest person in the competition, it didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Last week, I thought Danielle was fantastic, and I loved the song that Blake picked for her. This week, it was just a solid, forgettable performance. But Danielle ain't got to worry about nothing this week. She ain't going home no time soon. I think some of them had free weeks this week, and this was one of her free weeks. Unless Blake keeps giving her Carrie Underwood songs, she ought to be fine for a little while. Shakira said that Danielle is like a mini Iron Lady since she never seems nervous. I think she always seems a little bit nervous, but never too nervous. Adam said that Danielle is the one to beat, and I kind of agree with that for now. Next up is Judith Hill. The song Adam gave her this week, or maybe the song she picked herself, I'm not sure, is You've Got a Friend, and I'm allergic to Carole King's song, so I hated the song choice, which is becoming a trend with Judith. I am just not liking any of the songs that she's singing. They're all so old-fashioned. This week she played piano without a band, and I don't think there was room for a band because, holy bozo, what was that hair? No, she did a good job with it. She's a great singer. I didn't care for it. Even if I had liked the song choice, which I didn't, I'm just not crazy about the way she spends the last half of the song showing off. It could be any song, but when it's mostly vocal acrobats, I just cannot get into it. But the coaches loved it. Adam said that she's the most talented human being in the competition, and I sure wouldn't go that far, but she will survive this week, I'm pretty sure. Next up was Usher's only hope for a winner, Michelle Chamuel. The song Usher gave her was Call Your Girlfriend. Never heard of it. Apparently it was a dance hit recently, but I haven't been to a club since I was in my 20s, which has been a couple of years ago. So I was a bit disappointed in the song choice. Why do they always seem to pick either the overdone songs on these shows or fairly obscure songs that most people haven't heard of when there's been plenty of mega hits that have never been covered? I just don't get that. Anyway, Michelle did a pretty good job with this song, although sometimes the music was louder than she was, but she proved that you can actually move around a lot without sounding like crap. I didn't like it as much as I wanted to like it, but I still like Michelle. Shakira gave her kudos for learning to dance and move at the same time, but it'd be kind of tough to dance without moving, wouldn't it? Next up was Kris Thomas. The song Shakira gave him was I'll Be There, second Michael Jackson song of the night. The coaches are only giving these black men Michael Jackson songs. They must be sharing brains or something, I don't know. Kris said that he was about to join the Navy right before he auditioned for The Voice, but something wouldn't let him sign. Well, it sure wasn't Don't Ask, Don't Tell. That's not law anymore. No, I thought this performance started out really good, and I still really like his voice, but he screwed up a little bit about 3/4 of the way into the song, and you could see it in his face. He just spent the rest of the performance beating himself up over it, and so he didn't manage to salvage what was left of the song. All of the coaches except Usher seemed lukewarm toward it. Usher didn't like it at all, though. I think Kris was pretty lucky to go so late in the show. If he had gone first or second with his performance, he'd be history this week, and he still might be, but going last had to improve his odds. And the last of the night was Adam's pet, Amber Carrington. Amber said that she wants to be a country singer that crosses over into pop. I still don't hear her as a country singer at all. I don't hear a country singer in there anywhere. You know what I think it is? And you see a lot of this on these shows. People realize that it's easier to break into country music and then cross over to pop than to just come out as a pop singer these days. And so, that's the main reason that Blake tried to turn Cassidy Pope into a country singer last season. Anyway, Amber picked her own song this week, I'm Gonna Love You Through It, second Martina McBride song of the night. But Amber picked it for her mom since this song was basically a carbon copy of her story. So she obviously felt every word she was singing, but I didn't think she was nearly as good as she was last week. I wasn't crazy about this performance, but everywhere I look, everybody else seemed to love it, so I feel like the odd man out. But I think Amber's going to be safe this week. So that's it for this week. Going home, I'm going to say probably Vedo and Garrett, but Hawley and Sasha could be in some trouble too. I don't know if I'm going to do any results reviews this season. I didn't do any last season, mainly because I hate doing them. The results shows are just so boring for me. It's boring enough to watch without having to sit back and talk about it. So I think I'm going to skip them. Maybe when American Idol's over, I'll get bored and decide to do one or two if something eventful happens. But for the most part, we'll just briefly mention who's going home at the beginning of next week's review. So anyway, that's it. Let me know who you think's going home. If you loved or hated any of the performances, subscribe to my YouTube channel, come be my Facebook friend. Thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.